enters the battlefield if you cast it from your hand, put a white 1/1 white bird creature token with flying onto the battlefield, then populate.
Yeah.
So it's a 4/4, you get a 1/1, and you populate. You could populate the 1/1, or you could populate, you know, a 5/5 worm.
Yeah, I have not seen this card yet in high-level tournament play, so it's exciting to see it do so well to make the top 8 of a 10-round tournament.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can catch that later on in this top 8. And we'll have to see what happens here in this quarterfinal matchup. David Bauer versus Harry Corvese. Good friends, roommates, battling. Only one of them can move on to the semifinals of this Standard Open. And if you stay tuned with us, after the first game of this quarterfinals match, we're going to come back to the booth and have a trivia question for you guys, and you can win 3 rounds of premium at StarCityGames.com. So please stay tuned. We'll have a trivia question for you later. But now, game number 1 is underway. David Bauer starts off with a Swamp. Harry Corvese, Hallowed Fountain tapped. Or I'm sorry, David Bauer must have started with the Mutavault because he's attacking on turn 2 after playing the Swamp.
Now, if you are just joining us, these two players, David Bauer, the #1 seed at the end of the Swiss, he's had a long day here, coming what 9? I want to say 9-1 to finish this off, and now here he is in our quarterfinals. And you can see that the first seed there, David Bauer, Harry Corvese, 1-1 to make it here.
Yeah, Harry snuck in, I believe, on maybe 1 or 2% on the tiebreakers. David Bauer had to win his last match in quite dramatic fashion to get here. And there you see Harry casts a Detention Sphere on an Underworld Connections that David Bauer had just cast, and now David replaces it with another Underworld Connections, but no 4th land, so he's unable to draw cards off of either one.
Jace from Harry Corvese, and immediately does the minus effect to get 3 cards from the top of his library. David Bauer is going to have to just split these up. We see Harry Corvese take the second Detention Sphere all by itself and put 2 cards to the bottom. David's not going to get much opportunity. Oh, what is this? He has top-decked a Thoughtseize.
Wow.
Draws a card with the Swamp that has Underworld Connections, loses a life.
So you were about to say David's not going to get much card draw out of his Underworld Connections. You see him tap it once, pays a life, draws a card, but he did draw that Thoughtseize before on his natural draw, and now he's going to use it to take out that Detention Sphere, most likely. But we'll see what Harry's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's in Harry's hand yet. We'll see in just a moment. Here we see Detention Sphere, Sphinx's Revelation ×2. And then I believe that is a black removal spell and a dissolve.
Looks like a Thoughtseize.
Oh, is that a new Thoughtseize?
Yeah. And yes, a dissolve.
It is a new Thoughtseize. There we go.
So David takes the Detention Sphere, protecting his Underworld Connections, but seeing 2 Sphinx's Revelations in his future.
And he also misses a land draw. That's a very big deal. We see Nightveil Spectre, we see Desecration Demon, Nightveil Spectre, and Ultimate Price, and a Hero's Downfall.
Probably taking the Downfall here, so that Harry can be assured that his Jace will stick around. And yeah, as you said, David has missed his 4th land drop for several turns now. He cast Underworld Connections, was unable to draw a card. It got de-sphered. He cast another Underworld Connections, could not draw a card because he had to tap out to cast it. And then on this turn, his most recent turn, he tapped the Underworld Connections and still has not found a 4th land. And the Hero's Downfall goes away. Harry's going to tick up Jace to make sure it is safe from Mutavault. And now wait a minute, that's a 3rd copy of Detention Sphere.
What a pull from Harry Corvese. He needed that Detention Sphere, and what? There it is. And a Thoughtseize a little too late for David Bauer. He's going to hit that dissolve. We see, well, he's got a choice, Sphinx's Revelations ×2 or a dissolve.
Harry assumed David would take the dissolve, or perhaps was trying to play a little mind trick. Of course you want to take this. And yeah, David decides yes he does. Leaves the 2 revelations. Harry still on 4 lands. The revelations are not spectacular for him yet, but in the future they could be, and David doesn't have any pressure, so Harry has all the time in the world.
Harry Corvese, he is himself stuck at just the 4 lands. A Sphinx's Revelation, not too exciting if he's only going to draw 1 card.
But given that he has 2, maybe he will just do that and hope to draw land and hope to start chaining into more things. He could also -2 his Jace here, but I don't think he wants to lose it. Jace is pretty valuable if you can keep activating it over and over again, although that Mutavault could threaten to deal some damage to it at a certain point.
Yeah, and Harry Corvese decides just to keep it on par, leaving things alone. The +1 ability is going to go up to a 3. The Mutavault will only be able to deal 1 damage, so that's kind of a stasis sort of situation. Back and forth, no real change. And that land, though, comes into play untapped, pays the 2 life. He's going to plan on Sphinx's Revelations for 2, which is definitely problematic. David Bauer kind of grimacing here. He lays the Desecration Demon, and he knows that Harry Corvese is going to draw 2 cards, and he hopes nothing bad comes of it the next turn.
Yeah, you see end of turn. Harry does Sphinx's Revelation for 2, gains 2 life, draws 2 cards. David now has a Desecration Demon. See if Harry can find himself a removal spell for that demon to protect Jace with. Or another possibility is a 6th land, Elspeth Sun's Champion, make a bunch of tokens to continuously sacrifice.
We see Harry Corvese with that little bit of buffer. This is why David Bauer grimaced a little bit. Not being able to attack meant that definitely Harry Corvese could be able to activate the Jace. And look at this. Temple of Silence, Elspeth, and Supreme Verdict. This is a tough choice. Both Elspeth and Supreme Verdict can kill the demon that he has in play.
Yeah, the +1 from Elspeth can make tokens that you can sacrifice to the demon, or you can just outright kill. And now we'll have to see if David has made his choice. He kind of pointed to the Supreme Verdict. No, he has not yet. He's still deciding how to divide this 3-card pile. And there you go. Temple of Silence and Supreme Verdict, or Elspeth. What do you take here?
He goes with the more powerful spell here.
Yeah, Elspeth, repeatable effects on Planeswalkers are so powerful. Standard or any format, really.
Are we going to see some pain? He's thinking about it.
Sure, why not? To get an Elspeth on this battlefield with a second Sphinx's Revelation in his hand.
And we see Elspeth hit. It does the create tokens ability. Now, these tokens, he doesn't have to kill that demon yet. He can sacrifice one of the tokens to tap the Desecration Demon at the beginning of combat, and then he still has 2 tokens to defend against the Mutavault.
Yeah, that's a dangerous line, though, in my opinion, because David Bauer has access to the card Hero's Downfall, which if he top decks that and kills Elspeth, then you have no answer to the Desecration Demon as of yet. The Supreme Verdict was split off of the Elspeth, so Harry had to choose that over the Wrath.
And we see the casting of Nightveil Spectre added to this party. Harry Corvese here sitting pretty fabulously, honestly. He's got that Sphinx's Revelation in his hand still. He's drawn another land. That means he's got 2 more lands in his hand, which go very well with a Sphinx's Revelation. He's under no real pressure. He knows that his opponent has 1 ultimate price and a Nightveil Spectre, and whatever else he might be adding to it. That's just not very scary. Only 1 other card in David Bauer's hand to be worried about. We see 3 more tokens, an endless supply of food for the Desecration Demon. And we replace that die to make it a little bit more visually easy to read. We've got a 7/7 Desecration Demon, +1/+1 on it from the previous Dead Soldier.
Feed me, keep feeding me, says the demon. Currently a 7/7.
Yeah, Harry untaps the demon for David. David knows it's going to get tapped, but first, before it gets tapped, it has to untap. The rules require it.
That's true.
Another land from David Bauer. He could have used this earlier to get some early pressure, but now He declares an attack phase. The demon goes away, and in comes the Night Veil Spectre for 2, for 1 with the minus. And we get an Azorius Charm that David Bauer cannot cast.
Nope, David Bauer, Swamp, 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 Mutavault, and another Swamp there. So no access to any other colors as of yet. Azorius Charm will sit useless for now, but he will add another Night Veil Spectre to his board. So maybe if these Spectres continue to hit and draw some lands off of Harry's deck.
This is a very scary place to be if you're David Bauer. Right now, you are at, 3 cards in play that can die to a Supreme Verdict. Harry Corvese certainly playing the full amount for Supreme Verdicts. Remember, these players have full access to each other's deck lists in the top 8. So this is something that David Bauer knows. He knows he's playing against 4 Sphinx's Revelations and 4 Supreme Verdicts.
And these guys, good friends. They probably know anyway. They helped each other build their decks, I'm guessing. And there you go. Harry just shows him the Supreme Verdict that he drew for his turn, and David gives a little giddy-up action like, dang it, you got it.
Gangnam style giddy-up. Here we go. Supreme Verdict in hand amongst many. It's a mitt full of cards. I mean, I think we're going to see maybe one last attack from the soldiers in play before we see the Supreme Verdict. Thoughtseize, perhaps, to start to see what else is going on. There it is,
while, yeah.
Thoughtseize, and we see, look at that, a ultimate price left in David Bauer's hand. Not so exciting against Harry Corvese's deck. In come all the little soldiers. Night Veil Spectre blocks one of them.
He could have blocked with Mutavault too, and Harry points that out. Again, these guys are good friends, so it's...
Yeah, but he doesn't want to activate that Mutavault. David Bauer knows a Supreme Verdict is coming, so if he activates that Mutavault, it'll be perishing as well.
All right, so he was joking with his buddy that, hey, you should just give me that Mutavault as well.
And away goes a whole slew of cards. Harry Corvese takes that Azorius Charm that was removed by the earlier Night Veil Spectre and sets it aside. Now remember, these 2 Planeswalkers still sitting out. Elspeth can still make some soldiers this turn.
Ultimate price. David just throws that ultimate price over his shoulder. It is now on the ground somewhere behind. Oh,
someone gave it back to him.
Someone picked it up and gave it back to him. It's basically useless. It can kill a 1/1 soldier token, right?
And we see the Jace cashed in now. And what is this land? Looks like
but they're temples.
All temples.
Scry lands.
And
maybe one is not a temple. But at least one temple goes to Harry's hand.
It's a lot of land. Let's see.
Deceit. Scry bottom.
Things are looking very bleak for David Bauer. The game is very nearly completed. Looking at David Bauer's deck, what would need to happen for him to be able to come into this game, he'd need to start out with a Hero's Downfall basically immediately. And then after that, still have an answer to the Aetherlight. This match is over. This game is over, not the match. Okay, so we have our first game win in this top 8 for our StarCityGames.com Open Series. This is our standard Open, and that means something. We have another winner that's going to be selected by the end of this round.
All right.
And what we do at every single one of these StarCityGames.com Open Series events, as well as the Open Series featuring the Invitational, we bring trivia to you.
It's trivia time. I love it.
You guys win prizes.
I love trivia. Have you ever gone to pub trivia or bar trivia?
I have indeed.
It's fun.
It is indeed fun.
It's lost its luster in recent years because of, smartphones.
Fair enough. But in this present time, here's how this works. We're going to ask you a trivia question. And one person out there who is lucky enough to be selected, if you have tweeted the answer with the hashtag SCG Premium, and your answer is correct, one of you lucky winners will be selected to get 3 free months of Star City Games Premium. In our semifinals, we'll also repeat this and give away 6 free months to the winner. And finally, in our finals, we'd be giving away a year of Star City Games Premium.
It's doubling season here at the SCG Live. 3, 6, then 12 months, a full year in the finals. The semifinals and finals of the Standard Open will be tomorrow, but tonight we have the quarterfinals.
Absolutely.
So, the trivia question.
Yeah, I've got a very, very easy one for them. If
That's
you've got
good.
a harder one, I'll let you do it, but I've got a very
Let's
easy one.
start with the easy, and then I'll save the hard one for tomorrow.
In our invitational event, if you've been watching or if you've been reading the coverage that you can get to online, in our invitational event earlier tonight, one player playing in his last sanctioned match before he works to Wizards of the Coast made our top 8. What is the name of the top 8 player who this is his last sanctioned match before he moves to Renton, Washington to work for Wizards of the Coast? Tweet your answer, hashtag SCG Premium. What top 8 competitor has been hired to work for Wizards of the Coast to make Magic cards?
Yeah,
one
congratulations to
whomever.
Not going to say.
And now we're going to go back to our
hashtag
sideboarding.
SCG Premium. It is accuracy over speed, ladies and gentlemen, so do your research and make sure you have the correct answer.
Absolutely. Now, our players, David Bauer, the black deck, playing Black Devotion, he's got a ton of weapons to be able to fight against his opponent in this match. He's got 3 Duress. He's got 1 Erebos. Those are 4 excellent cards. He's got 1 Pithing Needle, which can turn off Planeswalker, whether it's Elspeth, whether it's Jace. And he's got a couple of Pack Rats. Pack Rat will demand an answer from Harry Corvese. And I think that those are the cards that are likely to see coming in. You can also see he's got Ratchet Bomb, Lifebane Zombies, Dark Betrayal, Devour Flesh, Farika's Cure, mostly for other matchups. And what do you see in the sideboard for Harry Corvese?
I see 4 useless Doomblades. But besides that, Trading Post is kind of an interesting singleton in Harry's sideboard. It's something that can give you a lot of incremental advantage over a number of turns, and maybe against a grindy deck like Mono Black, that's what he's going to need. Negates are not bad as well. Gainsays are not going to come in. Another copy of Thoughtseize. Pithing Needle, again, they have access to each other's sideboards. They probably knew already, but they can look at them again, and if Harry sees the number of Pack Rats that can be brought in, I think Pithing Needle is a good answer to Pack Rat. It's a good answer to Underworld Connections. You have to name the land rather than the enchantment, but most of David Bauer's lands are swamps.
Now we have some word from the floor. It appears that we have our first match already completed. That is Ryan Archer winning 2-0 over Joseph Edens, and that is green-white aggro beating the green-red Devotion deck. Wow.
Okay, and we've also got word that Ben Weinberg is now up a game in the backup camera match, so he's up 1-0 over Jonathan Cheng. Ben Weinberg also playing the mono blue Devotion deck, and he's up on the Esper Control. All right.
You can see the smiles on these players' faces. These guys have known each other for a while, getting along really well, having some laughs. And you know what? One of the things that's pretty cool when you're playing a friend of yours in an event like this, you know, they are already winners. If this was a PTQ, it can be a little bit frustrating when you're like, oh, God, I've got to play my friend or in the top 8. Because there's only one major prize at the PTQ, and that's the envelope. Here at the Star City Games Open Series, everybody's winning money. So everybody here is a winner.
You know what, Adrian? On the Open Series, friendship is our prize. Because you see, not only do David and Harry good friends, they're having a good time. The spotter judges there next to them are laughing as well. They appreciate the humor. They appreciate the lightheartedness. And I think the best thing about tournaments like the Open Series is that if you play against someone, who knows, like, I don't know where these guys met, how they became friends. Maybe they became friends by playing against each other at a past Open.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know that one of my favorite things about Magic, all of the people you meet. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that years have passed where you've played someone again and again, and, you know, perhaps they've come out on top, you've come out on top, but in the end, after having so many experiences together, just playing this great game, you just get to know people and you get to become friends.
Yeah, you sit in a commentating booth together.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan commenting here with Ricky Hayashi, the one and only. On the screen on the right is Harry Corvese with Esper Control. He's up 1-0 over David Bauer with Mono Black Devotion.
And there you go, again, some kind of exchange between these two great friends, and the judges are also having a good chuckle over it, also talking to somebody else, spectator perhaps. It's a great time all around here. I mean, how can it not be? We've played 16 rounds in the Invitational, 8 of Legacy, 8 of Standard. We've played 10 more rounds of Standard here.
Look at
in
these
the
guys.
Open.
They're having a good time. I hope that you're having a good time at home as well. I know that I certainly, I love it when I get a chance to play some good Magic against a friend like this. You said like we had 16 full rounds. We've had 10 rounds for the Swiss of this. It's 26. This is our first round of this. That's 27 rounds of Magic.
And tomorrow we'll have the Legacy Open alongside the top 8 of the Invitational, the semifinals and the finals of this Standard Open. We'll see who's going to move on from this portion of the bracket. Harry up 1-0 over David, and looks like we have some mulligans going on.
Now, both of these players mulliganed to 6 in the last game. In this game, it looks like Harry Corvese is staying on his 7. David Bauer on the play here, going down to 6, hoping to find something a little bit better than what he had with his first hand. Now, we saw the game turn 3, Underworld Connections. Harry Corvese got rid of it right away, Detention Sphere.
D-Sphere.
And then we see another Underworld Connections, and it only lasts for a single turn before it gets Detention Sphered as well, despite a Thoughtseize from David Bauer clearing away another
sphere.
Detention Sphere.
There's the third sphere that got him.
And you know what? I think that first game, if Harry Corvese hadn't had one of his Detention Spheres, I think that David Bauer would have run away with that first game. And, you know, when we go to the sideboard, we talked about it a little bit earlier, there are Pithing Needles that Harry Corvese can use besides Detention Sphere to answer Underworld Connections, so long as he remembers to name the land that is enchanted by the...
Here we go, starting off David Bauer after his mulligan plays a turn 1 Mutavault. Harry with a Temple of Silence, so David may just attack with that Mutavault again, or has he found a Pack Rat?
Turn 2, attack for 2. Duress in hand. I see Erebos, another good card in this matchup.
That's an excellent card. Shuts down life gain, very important against Sphinx's Revelation. And the fact that it is indestructible eventually can matter as well.
We see a Devour Flesh in David Bauer's hand. Duress to start things out. What do you got?
Let's see. There's a needle.
Aetherling, Azorius Charm, Pithing Needle, Jace, Supreme Verdict.
Wow, all of the different answers here. He's got an answer for everything and then some.
A Temple sitting there as well.
And Supreme Verdict, I think I got everything. And we'll see David Bauer also writing it down. And this is something, when your opponent looks at your hand, do you write down what they saw in your hand?
I always do that.
Okay.
I always do that.
And so that way in the future when you're making plays, you know what they saw, you know what information they still have.
That's correct. And we see Harry Corvese hiding the Jace. It doesn't work, though. Even if you put your hand over the card, you still have to reveal it.
He's revealing it. It's right there.
He had it hidden for a second. He put it under his hand.
Wishful thinking from Harry there. You can't see me. You can't see Jace. Oh, but David chooses the Detention Sphere, so possibly an indication of what his game plan is going to be going forward. Maybe Pack Rats.
If you're wondering why David Bauer still has Devour Flesh in his deck, the big reason is he's got enough cards to bring in that even after he's brought those cards in, he still has extra cards to hang out with. And a Devour Flesh has 2 rolls. Roll 1, it can fog an Aetherling. But roll 2, if Harry Corvese drops a Blood Baron down, and there are no soldiers or other friends around, Harry Corvese could see his Blood Baron devoured by the by David Bauer's Devour Flesh.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so a hedge against Blood Baron if he believes Harry's going to bring it in. And also, yeah, we saw Ultimate Price in game number 1. David threw it over his shoulder, almost completely useless, can kill a 1/1 soldier token. So he's got a lot of stuff that he needs to take out. Maybe can't bring in enough good things as well to replace them.
There we go. Erebos. Do you
That's a
have the
good one.
counter spell? If there's no counterspell, that's going to be pretty good. Now remember, we see the Detention Sphere in the graveyard. We see Azorius Charm has been cycled to draw a card. Harry Corvese, we know he has that Pithing Needle.
And interesting because these Esper control decks has been moving off of counterspells. Harry only has one copy of Syncopate in his main deck. That is the only thing he could have really cast there as a counter. So surprising. It used to be, you know, 4 Syncopate, 3 Dissolve, or some kind of combination like that, moving away from counter spells and moving more towards spot removal spells.
Now Harry Corvese here, he has a Jace in his hand. He has a Pithing Needle in his hand. And one of the things he has to be contemplating is whether or not he wants to let Erebos stay in play even for a little bit without the ability. Okay, there we go. He lays a land, he Pithing Needles the Erebos. Erebos is still an effective card because it still turns off the life gain of Harry's, but it does mean that the quote greed effect, that's the black 1 lose 2 life draw a card effect, cannot be activated by David.
And it still can, with enough devotion, become a creature and attack. So that, you see, David, with the duress, took the Detention Sphere, and I suggested he might be setting up his future play. He was setting up for Erebos because Detention Sphere is the most effective answer really from Harry's deck for Erebos, God of the Dead. Harry has to use a Pithing Needle, which is only a half answer to Erebos on this board.
4 mana, we see that Desecration Demon. In all of David Bauer's 75 cards between his main and his sideboard, he only has 1 card that he can use to get rid of a non-creature permanent, and that is 1 Ratchet Bomb. See, Supreme Verdict clears the way. Desecration Demon be gone.
So yeah, David played that demon. He had to know that the Supreme Verdict, he was just baiting out that Supreme Verdict.
And we see a Thoughtseize. Remember, there's still an Aetherling. There's still a
There's
Jace.
2?
Oh, double Aetherling. Yikes.
That's actually a problem for David. He might have been hoping to take the Aetherling with this Thoughtseize. With Harry now up to 5 lands in play, Harry really wants to at least get to 7 to protect it. And David was hoping to catch that Aetherling, but there's a second one.
I mean, everything in that hand is scary for him. What the land itself represents the ability to cast that Aetherling. It means that future Sphinx's revelations are also going to be more powerful. And I mean, Jace, if Harry Corvese lays the Jace, he will be stuck because of the Mutavaults that are in play. He will be stuck in plussing it to begin with. But then he could untap, use the minus ability. Okay, we see right now David Bauer beginning the beats. The 2 Mutavaults come on in, and now we're going to have to find out. There we go. Here comes an Aetherling.
Shields down Aetherling. Harry deciding he needs to just play it out, and he has 2, so that's a fine play.
Wow, that was an incredible draw for David Bauer. David Bauer just drew an Underworld Connections. He can do a 2 for play here. He can do the Devour Flesh to get rid of that Aetherling for good. Now remember, the other Aetherling is waiting in the wings, and Harry Corvese repeating the gentlemanly play that we saw before. He's leaving his card revealed. Now we have this Underworld Connections. It's been cast. David Bauer now has a card draw engine.
And he can have it all, as you said. 3 mana to cast the Underworld Connections, enchanting a different swamp, tapping the swamp, paying a life to draw a card, and then he can have 2 mana for Devour Flesh.
And remember, Harry won't gain the life. Devour Flesh normally gains life, but there is an Erebos in play.
Very good,
so no life gain for Harry Corvese.
And he reached for his life pad, but perhaps someone, either David or one of our spotters, reminding him, nope, you can't gain life. Oh, but this time Harry draws a land and is able to play an Aetherling with a blue mana open to blink it out in case of any kind of removal spell.
Now, 1 card in hand for Harry Corvese. Duress has been drawn by David Bauer. He also has a Gray Merchant in play as well. Gray Merchant actually really powerful right now because not only will it gain a great deal of life, 5 life for David Bauer, and drain 5 life from Harry Corvese, but it also activates the Erebos and makes Erebos alive. 1 loss of life there. Draw an extra card. There is that Ratchet Bomb.
Okay, so Erebos, yeah, would become a 5/7 if David plays out the Gray Merchant. It could attack into this Aetherling. Harry could either pump the toughness or just blink it out. But a threat there, so Harry has to manage his mana correctly if he wants to try to attack with Aetherling to blink it back on his turn and have enough mana to protect it in case he needs to block Erebos. And there it is.
5 life is going to be taken away from Harry and given to David.
Sucks the life out of him. Gary the Merchant.
And I think it would be completely reasonable, given the situation, for him to say pass, leave the Erebos back, because even though it's a creature, he has no play he can make to actually punish Harry for just doing anything other than block Blink.
Yeah.
And as a result,
No reason to.
I mean, he can hang back with that guy, and that guy instead could have been a blocker that would be required to be dodged with 1 mana for the Aetherling. And we're going to see the block Blink.
Block Blink or block Toughness Pump, whichever. He goes for the Blink. Comes back. And now so he can attack, pump it some, blink it on his turn so that it is pseudo-vigilance, have it available as a blocker. But
this board situation is so terrible.
Yeah, for Harry.
Yeah.
He's facing down Erebos, which is now a creature, and even the Gray Merchant is 2/4, and those Mutavaults as 2/2s. Quite a threat.
There's a lot going on right here that is very scary for Harry. And I'm trying to think what you would want to do in order to get out of this situation. Detention Sphere is one of the first cards that comes to mind. I mean, Aetherling can play defense, but for how long?
Yeah, so he scries with the Temple of Silence, puts the card on the bottom. Now he is figuring out his mana situation for this turn. How much can I attack for? Because maybe he wants to leave enough mana back.
Well, he's going to want to have his Aetherling on defense. So that means he's going to have to activate the blinking ability of the Aetherling if he attacks. He's
And
gonna
have 1 blink available for the block.
Yeah, so that would mean that he could attack, pump however much, blink so that his Aetherling comes back, and then still need to have mana up so he can blink again after blocking the Erebos. And if he does that, he's still going to be taking 6 from Mutavault, Gray Merchant.
Yeah, and that's what he's thinking about right now.
I mean, I would think that right now, given that his hand is so bad, I would just attack with the Aetherling. I wouldn't even bother making it unblockable. I would just hope that David Bauer blocks. Just hope that he can kill that Gray Merchant.
Yeah, that's actually better. I mean, you're not going to kill David from this position.
And then we see pump, pump, pump. And that's going to knock a big chunk of life off of David Bauer. And then we're going to see a little blink.
So 7.
And back it comes, and at the end of the turn, he says, end of turn, here you go.
Yeah, that's still 2 full combat steps with the Aetherling.
Oof. And another Mutavault drawn.
Oh, that's really good. So David Bauer, well, he's probably going to draw with Underworld Connections, right? See what his options are. We see a Duress. Doesn't need to cast that.
It's a Duress, Ratchet Bomb, and a Mutavault.
Ratchet Bomb's not going to do much. He could put it up to 1 and then take out the Pithing Needle. But Erebos right now, he doesn't need to draw cards off Erebos. He's already drawing off of the Underworld Connections, and he really wants to use his mana for the Mutavault attacks. Put Harry under some pressure. Harry only at 9 life here in game number 2. Harry did win game number 1.
Yeah, and the thing about this is that Harry Corvese has to block the Erebos. He has no other options. If he doesn't block the Erebos, then the other creatures that are unblocked will kill him. That means he's guaranteed to take 6 damage this turn. Duress, what do you got over there? Anything? Land. Good to know.
Yeah, David takes a look. He didn't know about that card, so he takes a look just to make sure, and now he's sure that it is completely safe. Yes, do it. David Bauer, attack. Mutavaults, go.
I'm here, kill me. Okay, in it comes, and the only block that leaves Harry alive is blocking Erebos, and then flickering out the Aetherling so that his Aetherling doesn't die. This will knock Harry Corvese down to 3 life. We see
And
another Mutavault.
That's going to that's just about going to seal it. There's really no sequence of cards here that can get Harry out of the situation. He's going to draw anyway. Look at it. I mean, that's one of the best cards he could draw, right? Supreme Verdict, but all it kills is the Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
Well, that killing the Grey Merchant does disembody the Erebos, but it's not going to be sufficient to stop, in addition, 3 Mutavaults.
Trip Mutavaults. This board. David Bauer feels victory within his grasp. Victory in this game to even up the match. Yep, Harry shows his hand, says this is not going to do it. They almost shook hands there.
The old Game 2 shake hands with the Game 3 still coming. I'm a big fan of shaking hands before Game 3.
Okay. You want to shake hands right now?
Sure, here we go.
All right.
Hey,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and so now, Harry Corvese.
Going to take another look at their sideboards, both of them. Maybe they were not expecting some of those sideboard choices.
Okay, another word. Jacob Bauer wins 2-0. The black-green deck taking down pretty easily the green-red deck. Now, Jacob's list, he splashes green just 2-1, pardon. He splashes green just barely for a little card called Abrupt Decay and a few sideboard cards.
Yeah, Abrupt Decay is the only one in the main deck. He defeats Kevin Zeit, who was playing the green-red Devotion. But congratulations to Kevin Zeit. We're here at the Invitational in Indianapolis. Top 8ing the Standard Open earns Kevin an invite to another Invitational. The next one's going to be coming up in Las Vegas, Nevada on December 13th through 15th. So congratulations, Kevin. Maybe we will see you in Las Vegas in the Invitational side of it. Maybe you can top 8 that one as well.
You can see both these players here. Remember, David Bauer mulliganing that game that we just watched him play. He actually mulliganed the first game as well, but in this one, a Underworld Connections off of the top stuck, and he was able to ride the Underworld Connections to plenty more cards and push Harry Corvese over.
Yeah, and plenty of those cards, including 3 Mutavaults. His lands doing a lot of work there, attacking for 2, drawing him cards. Never seen lands work so hard since Mishra's Factory. Or Workshop, I mean. Factory is good too. Workshop does a little more work.
Fair enough, fair enough. Mishra's Workshop, one of my favorite cards in Magic. It's a shame that it's not seeing more Legacy play these days.
Yeah, it seems like Mutavault has pushed it aside or has taken up half of the load, especially in the tribal decks like Fish, Merfolk decks. Someday, it'll come back. Workshop. Good old Winter Workshop. One of the best pieces of art.
And David Bauer, Mono Black Devotion, Harry Corvese, Esper Control. I think that these two decks, they're both more controlling decks. David Bauer's deck, definitely very much a mid-range control deck. Harry Corvese's a more pure control deck. And when you see decks like these face off, one of the major fights that they often have is a fight of card advantage. And both of these decks are very able to put up some card advantage. David Bauer, I mean, this is in many ways, Mike Flores on Friday, I believe, wrote about this, what he kind of called the Necropotence style. And sure, there are no Necropotences in David Bauer's deck.
But paying life. Yeah.
Underworld Connections, I mean, we've seen this kind of effect before. Phyrexian Arena in not so long ago was a card that we would sometimes see play in Standard.
Dark Confidant.
Yeah.
And this deck, Mono Black Devotion, has both Underworld Connections, pay 1 life, draw a card, tapping the land, and Erebos, God of the Dead. 2 mana, pay 2 life, draw a card, so even then, still worth it, the Necropotence effect. Harry, on the other hand, gets to gain life along with this card draw with Sphinx's Revelation. That doesn't seem fair.
That's true. Now
Black has to pay life.
Sphinx's Revelation is a card that I think a lot of people didn't fully respect when it was printed, but it took them. Yeah, but it didn't take them hardly any time at all.
Yeah.
Before they were like, oh, never mind, we were wrong.
Yeah. I think I do recall that. Yeah, actually, they were like, oh well, it's it's great and all, but X, like, how much can you really pump into it? 2, 3?
I mean, how much life will life matter? That doesn't
Yeah.
matter. That no, but it really does matter. And if you were somebody that was playing in the previous season and you saw decks like Andrew Cuneo playing the blue-based Blue Suns Zenith blue-white decks, you know how powerful the card draw is. But then that life gain, it can be so backbreaking.
I think what makes it better is you see it's a 3 mana and then X, which is a very expensive spell, but all these decks play 4 of it because the first one helps you cast the next one for bigger, drawing lands, and so on and so forth.
And then we saw just these two friends. They did give the third game handshake. I'm a big fan of
Okay.
that. But yeah, you're totally right. When it comes to that life buffer, gives you more time to draw another Sphinx's Revelation. Blue Sun Zenith wasn't ever able to do that. It was great that it gave you the cards, but it didn't give you more time by giving you a little bit more life.
Yeah, one of the most backbreaking things you see is a Sphinx's Revelation for like 5 in the mid game, and then next for 6. Then a couple turns later, for 8. It just adds up too much life gain, too many cards. These guys looking at their cards, and Harry's gonna mulligan, and David keeps. So Harry's on the play here. He lost that last game.
So, I have a question for you, Ricky. It's kind of a philosophy question as it
I was
relates to
hoping for
Magic.
trivia.
Nope, it's a philosophy question.
Okay.
So Harry Corvese here, he mulligans.
Yeah.
And one of the ways he indicated that he was going to mulligan is he picked up the first few cards of his deck just to see what they looked like.
Sure.
So
yeah.
are you somebody that you like to look, or you like to never look when
Never.
you mulligan?
Oh, look at Harry mugging for the camera.
So
He's been here enough times that he knows right now while they are mulliganing, we are on the face cams instead of the overhead cam. And David's like, you buddy.
So you are the no look
Never.
at the
Never look.
Tell me why.
I think there was a time when I used to look and it just frustrated me. And I just don't look anymore because it doesn't matter. You should make your decision based on what your hand looks like and what the percentage chances in your decks are that your draws will help your hand out. Looking at it's Schrodinger's cat type situation.
I'm an always look guy.
Always look.
Always look.
We are on opposite
absolutely, yeah.
sides of the fence.
I feel like the only reason not to look is if you're too weak-willed to listen to the data.
All right. Results-oriented, Adrian
No, it's not
Sullivan.
about results-oriented. It's about gathering more data.
Gathering more data on what? You know what the composition of your deck is, so if you want data, you can just calculate what your odds of drawing a land are and figure that out.
Thoughtseize on turn 1 from David Bauer.
Okay, so we've got a couple of lands. D-Sphere, Detention Sphere, Dissolve, and a Hero's Downfall. And the lands are Watery Grave and Hallowed Fountain. Downfall, I just wrote down a bunch of D's. D-Sphere, Dissolve, Downfall. Watery Grave and Hallowed Downton.
There we go. All the D's you can.
I just wrote Downton. I'm
Yeah,
terrible.
and then you're
I
like-
mind tricked myself.
Downton Abbey. Okay, and we see goodbye to the Detention Sphere, which can basically answer every card in David Bauer's deck. And David Bauer only one Ratchet Bomb in his deck to be able to answer the Detention Sphere.
Yeah, we've continuously seen David take the Detention Spheres with Thoughtseize because it is a versatile answer to things, especially to the Underworld connections, which was so key for David in game number 2.
We see a land. That's a different land than I believe we saw before. Temple of Silence.
That's true. We saw Watery Grave and Hallowed Downton.
Hallowed Fountain for those of you who are not going to go with Ricky on the D trip.
And so the Temple of Silence, that does give David continued information on Harry's hand, but the Scry on turn 2 is more valuable, Harry decides.
And we see a Temple of Deceit from David Bauer. Now, one of the things I think is kind of funny, every time that we've seen Harry Corvese on camera so far, when his hand has been revealed by Thoughtseize or Duress, he has left those cards revealed to his opponent. But now when everything is on the... Oh, there we
Well,
go.
he gets to see it again. And it's the same cards, because
Yeah.
we knew that.
There we go. Dissolve goes away. But now that everything's on the line, this last game, he's not leaving them revealed anymore.
A little gamesmanship against his friend here. We'll see. We'll see if it matters. It's not very hard to remember the cards in Harry's hand. I wrote them down, so I will most certainly forget now. but Adrian can remember for me, and hopefully David can remember. So there's the watery grave. I knew about that. Definitely. Definitely.
This is game 3 here. David Bauer on the left with Mono Black Devotion. Harry Corvese on the right with Esper Control. We see Lifebane Zombie just getting some information, getting a beater on the table. You see a Pithing Needle and a Hero's Demise in addition to that Hallowed Fountain.
Yeah, Hero's Downfall. That's been there since the beginning. The Needle is the new card. And we see that. David Bauer, this is interesting that he has Lifebane Zombie here. The effect is not going to hit, but I guess he just wants to 3-1 intimidate attacker.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about this guy, you can't block it with a soldier, you can't block it with an Aetherling.
And that is a big axe he's swinging.
You know, the other thing about this, 3 power for 3 mana, it's not anything to sneeze at. You know, that's actually something that puts you on a real clock.
And good for killing planeswalkers, too. We often see in Legacy, Creeping Tar Pit, the 3-2 unblockable, doing work against planeswalkers. So similar here, huh?
And there goes the Hallowed Fountain and Jace. Wow,
well,
very nice. And he goes down with it. Wow.
I'm a little surprised, I guess, but...
Oh, look at that look, Harry Corvese gives. Is that a trading post?
That's the singleton trading post that I mentioned that could give him a lot of incremental advantage over a long game, and this might be shaping up to be such a long game. Those goats and recurring all the cards and drawing cards, everything really. So this is off of a Jace -2 activation, revealing the top 3 cards. They are Detention Sphere, Trading Post, and it looks like a Watery Grave. So on our backup camera match, Ben Weinberg and Jonathan Chang. Jonathan has evened the score at 1 game all. They are going to game 3. Maybe we will be able to join them in the action, in the middle of the action in game number 3 later on. That's Jonathan playing Esper Control and Ben playing Mono Blue Devotion. Evened up. Okay, so Trading Post and Watery Grave were put in one pile, and the third card, Detention Sphere, was put in the other. Harry wants that Trading Post. It's a singleton. He wants to try it out maybe, or just he knows how powerful it is here.
That's right. Now we're going to see this Lifebane Zombie murder Jace.
Yeah, with that axe. He swings his axe.
It could be actually that the Mutavault murders the Jace. It depends on if there's anything else in his hand that he wants to play.
Yeah,
you can see is that a Thoughtseize? Yeah, there is a Thoughtseize in his hand. And Harry Corvese has left his hand revealed. He's gone back to the nice guy magic that we saw from before.
David Bauer, if he casts that Thoughtseize, he's going to want that Trading Post, right? Because Harry's been so excited about how sad is Harry going to be when he has to discard the Trading Post. And as you said, the Mutavault takes out the Jace. Lifebane Zombie goes to the Dome for 3.
There we go.
Points
We're not
right
going to have any of that shenanigans. Goodbye, Trading Post. This is a Thoughtseize.
Harry Corvese, how sad are you about losing your Trading Post? Couldn't be sadder, probably. All right, but he's going to have to fight on without it. Plays the Watery Grave. Pithing Needle. Hero's Downfall. Mystery card.
Passes the turn.
Yeah, so probably going to Hero's Downfall something here. He can't just keep taking 5 forever.
Boy. So he has drawn, David Bauer has drawn an Underworld Connections. One of the things that David Bauer can do here is do an attack, try to draw out that Hero's Downfall. There it is. Now that Harry Corvese is tapped down Underworld Connections on one of these untapped lands and start using it to draw cards.
So make sure you...
Oh, that's also good. Whip of Erebos. That is certainly a reasonable card to lay instead.
So that's going to set up, if he draws a 5th land, he does have that Grey Merchant he's had in his hand for a few turns. He can play that, drain for 4, and then even if the Grey Merchant is dealt with, the Whip can bring it back.
Now remember, the Pithing Needle, he's trying to bait that Pithing Needle out of Harry Corvese's hand. Harry can answer that Whip. And I think that this Whip is just bait to get the Needle out. And looks like Harry's saying, fine, how many creatures you got in your yard? It looks like you've got 1 to me, buddy.
Not biting on the bait. So far, only the Life-Bane zombie, so David could reanimate that attack for 3.
Boom. We're going to drain for 4 if this Gray Merchant resolves, and Harry Corvese says, sure, goodbye me. I wonder if there is a Sphinx's Revelation in Harry's hand.
Yeah, that's that mystery card. We see the face-up Piling Needle that we've known about, and David has known about, trying to bait it out with Whip of Erebos so that he can play an Underworld Connections instead and draw cards. Okay, Harry, is he tempted now to commit the needle? He's
I see his hand
Yeah.
picking it up. Oh, God, what are you going to do?
He almost picked it up. There you go.
There
He
it
taps
goes.
one Piling Needle on Whip of Erebos. So David's plan, has it paid off now?
Passes the turn. I mean, the thing about it is, Harry Corvese can't just sit there and let the whip start doing things like bring back the Lifebane zombie, get in a couple extra damage.
Yeah, and then eventually the Gray Merchant he's going to have to deal with, and then doesn't want it to come back as well.
Here comes the Merchant and a Mutavault.
That's a lot of pressure coming over here. 4 damage, and incidentally 4 life gain from the lifelink on the whip. And now here we go. Connected to the underworld as David Bauer.
No.
Oh.
No, no, no. Let's look at that patience there. You know, he had that held back, sees the threat coming, gets rid of that one. He probably had that for the Gray Merchant, but he was just said, I'll just take that 4 and try to deal with the 2 damage a turn from here.
That's the Singleton Syncopate in Harry Corvese's deck that he used to counter the Underworld Connections.
Passing it back. Now that Piling Needle naming the Whip of Erebos. And a mysterious hand. Oh, here we see another Gray Merchant.
And another counterspell. Oh, downfall in response to the trigger. So 2 less devotion to drain with, and also takes out the non-summoning sick one, so he's not going to get attacked for 2. Does get attacked for 2 by the Mutavault. Harry's in a lot of trouble here.
Oh yeah. One of the things, the reason that we saw earlier Raymond Perez Jr. playing a deck that he and Adam Jansen kind of brewed together, a mid-range Esper deck with Planeswalkers. One of the reasons that they played that, rather than play Esper Control like they had at the Open, Black is really good against Esper Control. All of the discard, and then the Underworld Connections, it's just very difficult. And right now, Harry Corvese, I believe he's trying to decide if he wants to put that Mutavault on top of David Bauer's deck, or if he wants to draw a card.
What card is he looking for?
Sphinx's Revelation.
It doesn't seem like he has enough lands to survive through here, so putting the Mutavault on top of the library, saving himself some damage, and the Mutavault will be summoning sick, but David Bauer's got another Mutavault. Doesn't have enough answers to everything here. Oh, Blood Baron. Is that enough?
That's really
Oh
good
my
right
goodness,
now.
that is an amazing top deck from Harry Corvese. Blood Baron of Vizkopa, protection from black, protection from white, lifelink. And David Bauer has to put the brakes on against the Blood Baron. He can't do anything about that 4/4 lifelinking protection from black.
Wow, right now, Harry Corvese, he's still in this, only barely.
Yeah, because even next turn, David replays the Mutavault that was put on top of his library with Azorius Charm. Even if he attacks next turn with 6 power, lifelink no longer a trigger, so Harry would survive the attack, gaining 4 life at the same time he takes 4 damage.
David Bauer hits the top of his deck. He's hoping to get something exciting here.
Yeah, I mean, could it be as exciting as Blood Baron?
Oh, and Harry shows the Aetherling in hand.
Wow. He should just commit that to the board here, I think.
Looks like that's what he's contemplating.
David Bauer cannot target the Blood Baron with any of his black removal spells.
Harry Corvese was contemplating attacking. If I were David Bauer, I would throw 2 Mutavaults in the way of that guy in a second.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That...
And David Bauer takes it.
He takes it, yeah. Sometimes, you know, you get caught up in the protection and you think, oh, that thing has protection from my deck. Not
Well, I mean,
quite.
the alternate thing here, though, is he has 2 attackers. So he can
Yeah.
draw something like a Gray Merchant to try to finish the game off.
Goes
What
to
did he draw? Did he just draw like a removal spell there? Is that a Hero's Downfall? I'm not sure if I saw a Hero's Downfall, but we'll have to find
but
out.
Harry
David
is at
Bauer.
7 life. Not quite enough. Here's downfall in the Aetherling. Attack for 6. I mean, I feel like Harry had to commit that Aetherling to the board here. Who knows how long it's going to take him
Yeah,
at 7 lives.
and David Bauer must not have drawn a removal spell. He
Nope.
passes the turn right back.
This is an amazing turnaround for Harry Corvese with the Esper control deck. I really personally thought he was dead to rights, and
Yeah.
Adrian, I don't know if you did too.
And we see he draws a temple, looks, puts a card on the bottom, and he's preparing his Aetherling mana.
Yeah, figuring out how much damage he can do total along with the blinks. So he wants to leave 2, maybe 3 blue up for blinks. Unblockable.
He says unblockable. In comes both
Attacking
of
with
the creatures.
both, yeah, because the lifelink from the Blood Baron.
Pump, pump.
6, 10 damage total.
Knock
So
you to 10.
it's going to put David at dead next turn.
And he blinks it to bring it back as a defender.
Wow.
Did David Bauer just fall to that combination of Azorius Charm on the Mutavault into a top-decked Blood Baron?
Into an Aetherling. I mean, that's also been very key because of the extra damage dealing. Going to reduce the clock. Number of turns that Harry needs to finish this. Currently 1. The best that David can do is use some kind of removal spell on Aetherling as a fog effect, and he has... Oh, well, he can still... I'm sorry, he can still block with the Mutavaults. He chooses just to chump block here. Or perhaps indicating activate the Mutavault? Not quite sure.
I think we just have a single block. It looks like Harry Corvese is pumping up his Aetherling right now.
It seems like he's committed to the block, and now it is the pumps after blocks.
And there we see a dead Mutavault and Aetherling.
Wow, what is...
Remember, gaining 2 life. David Bauer gains life from the Whip of Erebos.
Yeah, that's important too, no doubt. I'm actually still a little surprised that David's not gone for the double block with both of his Mutavaults. It's unfortunate to lose them both, but I feel like getting the Blood Baron off the board is at least a start to stabilizing this board position. Hard to stabilize against an Aetherling.
In comes the Gray Merchant.
That's going to attack. Harry's most likely going to block with the Aetherling and blink it, denying David the life gain from the lifelink, from the Whip of Erebos. No. Decides to just eat it, so again, David's going to gain 2 life. Cannot use the whip to bring back the Grey Merchant. That is what Pithing Needle is naming, Whip of Erebos.
And Nightfell Spectre, pass after another swap. Say go.
Not really good enough here. It is both blue and black, so the protection from black means the Blood Baron will run on past it.
And that is it. Harry Corvese squeaks on through. David Bauer defeated by Harry Corvese. And look at that. Even Harry is saying, wow, I can't even believe that came out the way it did.
That look on his face is, I don't know how I won. And how he won was he drew the Blood Baron of Vizkopa on the last possible turn to blank David's final attack, his alpha attack, and so David was unable to attack into the Blood Baron because of that protection and the lifelink, and then on the following turn, Harry Corvese was able to play an Aetherling, and then really put the clock on David, just turn the match around with 2 cards.
You know, that was a really interesting play. Remember, if we talked about it before, wow, these players, Ben Weinberg on the right, Jonathan Chang on the left, Esper Control versus